What is good, guys? Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Chen, back at it again with a new video. And today we're going to be talking about one of the most notorious cults to ever emerge out of America, probably out of the whole world: Heaven's Gate. My fan is on. Can't do without my fan. I don't know what to tell you guys about a mic, so it wouldn't be that evident. I'm gonna still hear it, but honestly, I don't know what to tell you because this is Jamaica. I'm gonna need my fan. I need it. I'm not going to just be sweating all the time. So in my last video, we spoke about the incels, and they were mad. They are mad. They didn't like what I had to say, and like I said in my video, we don't really get to see a lot of incels. Everybody at Jamaica are jealous. Sorry but not sorry. Everybody's a jealous. Everybody have a woman. So oh my god, so I can't relate to the story, so all I had was the examples that they provided. And honey, if you don't want those examples, give us better ones. I'm going to leave it in the card. I think it's up there in the card above, and you can go check it out if you never check it out yet. But today we're talking about the Heaven's Gate movement. We're also going to see how long it takes for my edges to roll all the way back, because they really are playing with me today. Right, so Heaven's Gate can be defined as a religious group that believes in the existence of UFOs and extraterrestrials. Aliens. So for the majority of their existence, they really were a quiet group, but Senate River run deep because they became popular for being the backstory for one of the biggest mass to ever take place in America. So the first question that I would ask is, why would a whole group of people decide to just lay down and die? And to answer that question, I'd have to go all the way back to 1972 when Bonnie Lou Nettles met Marshall Applewhite. The circumstances under which they met are still not clear. Applewhite says that he met her when visiting a friend in the hospital. However, according to his sister, he was having some trouble with his heart and had a near-death experience, so that's how they met at the hospitals. Which, why would he hide that? That's not something to hide. It's not like something shameful if he really was having a near-death experience. I really don't understand why that is something where he would not want to hide. But another story is that it was actually a psychiatric hospital and he was a patient in that hospital. And for some reason, when I mentioned that story, they always said that she was filling in for a nurse in the pediatric section, and that's how they met. But for this video's sake, he said, and that's the only account that we have from his mouth, is that he met her when visiting a friend. So I guess he met her when he visited a friend. I know what I think happened based on the events that took place after, but him say I visit a friend. So tell me how you think they met in the comment section below. So whatever the real circumstances were that caused them to meet, the fact is that they met, and they met at a time when both their lives weren't really going so well. The Houston born and raised Nettles had what most would consider to be a normal life. She grew up in the Baptist church, was a registered nurse, and ended up marrying a well-off businessman and having 4 children of her own. In her middle-aged years though, she became interested in matters of the occult and even ended up joining a lodge. She later started engaging in seances where she attempted to communicate with the dead, and even said that she was in constant contact with a monk called Brother Francis. Side note though, I wonder how her husband did feel, because can you imagine you did a good with somebody regular, normal, and then all of a sudden them just start do them weird stuff here where you never did interested in her before. She also regularly visited fortune tellers for guidance, and in one of her visits she was told that she would meet a tall man with fair complexion and light hair with whom her stars aligned. She later determined that this person was Marshall Applewhite, and later she and her husband got divorced. So Marshall, he also grew up in Texas, but he was from a Presbyterian background. I don't know how different those two groups are, but he was Presbyterian. His father was a minister in the Presbyterian church, and him in his younger years of life, he also wanted to be a minister. But later on, he realized that his talents were more along the lines of music and acting, so he kind of stuck with those. At one point, he even tried to make it as an actor in New York, but it didn't work out. He went on to get his master's degree in music and went on to teach music at the University of St. Thomas after serving a little while in the army. See, there's a reason why I'm telling you all these things, because they align later down in the story. Applewhite was also married and had children of his own. He ended up leaving University of St. Thomas after the school administrators found out that he was having an affair with a male student. He eventually went back to Houston, where he was a choir director for a while. So in 1972, he left his family, and that was a year after his father had died. So I guess it might have something to do with that, I'm not sure. Another source that I saw stated that him and his wife were divorced from 1968, so probably that was happening before, not sure. But whatever it is, as you can see, both their personal lives weren't really doing so well, like immediately before they met. And however it is that they met, the fact is that they did meet, and after meeting, Nettles convinced Applewhite that he could be used mightily. So after they came together, they decided that their lives had a much higher purpose. So they set out to discover what exactly that higher purpose was to be, because they didn't know yet. So after reading a combination of the Bible, science fiction, and other religious writings, they decided that they were the two that were mentioned in Revelation 11, verse 1 to 14. And they called themselves the UFO 2, because obviously them can't keep out all of the good science fiction reading what them do. Everything have to come together as one. So now that they had the belief down pat, all they needed was followers, and they started issuing pamphlets and hosting discussions in religious settings. So they gained their first follower in 1974. She was a lady who had left her whole family in order to follow them, left her whole family behind. But after a while, she returned to her family, and Applewhite and Nettles, who at this time wanted to be called Bo and Peep, yes, Bo and Peep, like little Bo Peep who lost her sheep, they were charged with fraud for using her credit cards. Birds of a feather get arrested together. The charges were eventually dropped because she actually gave them permission to use the cards, but they held on to Applewhite for stealing a rental car, which he had rented 9 months ago, and he was still driving at the time. So Applewhite spent about 6 months in jail for that charge, and that kind of slowed down the progress of the group. But Nettles would still visit him in jail, and they would discuss the details of their beliefs. So when he came out, he still didn't lose the faith, you know? He was still strong in the faith. So in 1975, Doe and T, as they now desired to be called, after advertising a gathering that would take place in a motel in Oregon, they were able to convince over 20 people in Oregon to sell their possessions, leave their family behind, and follow them to live a nomadic life, begging on the streets in order to obtain the evolutionary level above human. The evolutionary level above human, this meant that their bodies would be transformed into extraterrestrial beings, aliens, and transported into a UFO, which would take them to the next level, which is what they call heaven. So the total group at this time was about 100 people, and they were called the crew. That was a Star Trek reference, because science fiction, So their new life kept them out of the gaze of the media, which is exactly what they needed at that time. Because after what happened after the Oregon meeting, they started to get more media coverage, because the family of the 20 people that left were very worried, and they informed the media. So in 1976, they kind of paused the recruiting drive and went to live a more secluded life. So Doe and T, which is how I will start to refer to them from now on, they started adding a few more extra stuff in there into the doctrine. The members were all encouraged to have the same haircut, remain celibate, wear the same clothes, eat the same food, travel together, cut themselves off from their family and friends, and all things that connected them to their humanness. And this was since they were training for their new life in the evolutionary level above human. I don't ever want to hear, listen, The amount of time them say evolutionary level above human in this thing, it's too much. They also denounced the names that they were given at birth, and they all took names which they made up that ended with the suffix ODY, which meant children of the next level. They gave it that meaning. Things took a turn in 1985 when T developed cancer, which turned out to be fatal. This sent the new religion into a frenzy because all this time they were telling the people that they were the key to eternal life. And they were telling them that their bodies would be transformed into an immortal body and transported to the level above human. The fact that she died proved that that was wrong. And it also didn't align with the prophecy of the two in Revelation that they were going with. So people started to leave. Also, even though when you look up Heaven's Gate, they mainly talk about Doe, as in Applewhite, being the leader. But really and truly, it was T that was the leader. She was really the brain of the operation, and then he was like the more charismatic face and voice that used to portray her message, which probably charismatic did mean something different in 1972, because I sat there and I listened to damn near all those sessions that he had, and I was bored. Even the way that those spoke about their relationship, he believed himself to be the one carrying the spirit that was in Jesus. Yes, that's what I said. He believed himself to be carrying the spirit that was Jesus back in the days. And he believed that T was carrying the spirit of God. And I use the term God very loosely because what you're talking about. And he referred to T as his older member, which means that she was above him in teaching. Now that she was gone, Doe was kind of devastated because even though they weren't romantically involved, they were kind of something like soulmates in a weird way. Remember that their stars aligned, but it seemed really that they had some kind of strange kind of love for each other, and he really was sad when she was gone. But all that aside, now he had to really come up with something really quick because the people were losing faith in what he was saying, and T's death caused them to be questioning the validity of their doctrine. And of course, he was able to think of something. So what he actually came up with was that the transformation would still take place, right? But it wouldn't be something physical anymore. Their physical bodies wouldn't be what is transformed. He explained to them that their bodies were just vessels for the soul, which is what would be transformed. I mean, things are going on here, some man. Great things are keep. So after that, there were some that really said, okay, this is a go. That's a good reason why this would be the case. That's a good reason why she would die. Dying didn't change anything, so they were still willing to follow him on their path. Quite a few had left though, but some people really stayed. He literally changed up in the middle of the game, and they were like, okay, cool. And I feel like all this did was really give him more confidence. More confidence is in his ability to get those who remain to do anything that he wanted them to do. I mean, by this time he had already gotten them to leave every inch of their individuality behind, and he even convinced 7 of the male members in the group to be castrated along with him. And he said that this was to even further separate themselves from their human desires, which, as we heard before, is something that the sexual desires are something that he was struggling with from even before he became the leader of the group. Times were not like they are now, and back then homosexuality was really something that was frowned upon. So I guess probably he was still having the desires. So he convinced them that the castration would bring them closer to the evolutionary level above human, as there was no gender, sex or reproduction where they were going, so you don't really need those. You don't need those organs. For the most part, they lived quietly. They camped all over the country and they rented homes in different areas as they prepared for their life in the next level. I wonder how much time I got say next level in this video. Eventually, they started operating an IT business as the internet grew in popularity. So the growth of the internet also provided them with a new way to recruit new members, and they created a website where they detailed their beliefs in very lengthy statements. In 1995, scientists discovered the comet Hale-Bopp, I don't know, one of them. But they discovered the comet, and in 1996, Chuck Schramek, Chuck, oh my god, saw an image of the comet and determined that there was something trailing behind it. This obviously turned out to be false. There was nothing trailing behind the comet. But at the time, yeah, he thought he saw something trailing behind there. Members of Heaven Gate were excited because they were convinced that this was their ride to the evolutionary level above human. Something's not right. Something is really wrong. The makeup and I don't know, something not go right today. In 1996, Doe and the crew rented a house in Santa Fe. The house was rented in a really nice community, and it was more of a mansion than a house. It wasn't just a house. It really had to be a mansion to house almost 40 people, and it probably had more than 40 at some point in time. But really and truly, this would be the scene of something very gruesome. Doe convinced them that the comet was bringing a UFO to Earth that would take those who were prepared to be a part of T's crew, after which the Earth would be recycled. So how would they get on board? You couldn't just walk right in, right? Because if it was that easy, everybody could have gone. So he told them that in order to get aboard the spaceship, they had to die so that their souls could be transported to the spaceship and take their soul up to the next level. At this point now, the class was going on for over 20 years, and they referred to this moment as their graduation. It's their IT business. They stopped taking jobs on there and started winding down in preparation for their departure. They even took out something that was called alien abduction insurance. Literally, the bank just said, "Oh, you want me to take your money? Say less." So each member of the group, they prepared an exit statement. I watched all of the exit statements, and really they seem to be in high spirits. There were some tearful deliveries, but they seemed to be clear about what they were doing and why they were doing it, and they really thought of us as just people who would be left behind and missed a great opportunity. On March 21, 1997, the 39 crew members went into a restaurant, and they all ordered the exact same meal: turkey pot pie, cheesecake with blueberries, and iced tea. It wasn't until later that the employees there would have discovered that this was the last meal of the group. And I find it so strange that they didn't even get the chance to choose their own last meal, even that was planned out for them, even that was controlled. 5 days later, the San Diego Sheriff's Department received an anonymous tip which caused them to go and do a welfare check at the house that the 39 crew members were staying. Upon entering the home, they were greeted with a foul scent, and it was determined that there were no survivors. All 39 members were found deceased, covered in purple cloth, and all dressed in the identical suit of clothing, and even having the same amount of change in their pockets, down to the same amount of change. So it was later discovered that they did it over a 3-day period by ingesting a combination of chemicals, pudding, and vodka. They also did it in shifts so that the remaining members could help them to ensure that the deed was done. Applewhite was one of the last persons to do the deed. That anonymous tip that they got was actually, the 911 call was actually made by a surviving member of the group who had recently separated from them because he believed that his work on Earth wasn't done. It's not that he separated from the group itself as if he didn't want to be associated with the group anymore. It's just that he didn't want to do his departure at that time. So the website is still up and running, and they still have active members to this day. And when I say the website is active, I mean active. There are people who have sent messages recently and they got responses. Anyways, so final thoughts. And this is just solely my opinion now. I believe that they targeted people who didn't really have, like, they weren't really grounded. There seemed to be people who were searching for something that is greater than themselves. They preyed upon those type of people because they were vulnerable to accepting almost anything if I meet them on the right day. And I use the word pray because After listening to a few of the sessions, the way he communicated seemed as if he was trying to manipulate your thoughts. I get the impression that he wanted to convince people that whatever they thought they knew, they really didn't know. And I think that's very much manipulative. And really and truly, if you listen to him long enough, you realize that he might not even know what he's talking about. And he really wasn't sure of anything at all. So if you go on the website right now, the first thing that you will see on it, the opening statement is, whether Halebop has a companion or not is irrelevant from our perspective. Excuse me, what? We mean it irrelevant? We mean it irrelevant after you convince 38 other people to take their lives because that was a perfect moment, because Halebop was carrying this aircraft or the spacecraft that would take you to the evolutionary level above human. Isn't that the whole gist of why you guys did what you did? How can it then be irrelevant? In hindsight, we might wonder why anyone believed any of the things that he said, because clearly it wasn't true. None of the things that he said would have happened did not happen. So why did people believe? The only reason that I could come up with, and y'all know I'm not an expert, I'm just talking because I mean hindsight is 2020. I believe that they were brainwashed. I was listening to one of the exit statements, and one of the members stated that being outside of the group for long enough would cause him to be deprogrammed. And maybe it's just me, but the fact that he used the word deprogrammed kind of made me think, like, why did he use that word deprogrammed? It kind of sounded weird to me. So the home that they were saying since then has been demolished. I guess it was giving their neighborhood a bad name and they never like it, so they bought it and demolished it, and rebuilt it as something new. So the house that was there then is not the house that is there right now. That was a lot. I think this might be a long one. Yeah, so that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you got to this section, thanks a lot for sticking it out to the end. I know it might have been a long video, but I just wanted to share what I've learned about this group with you guys, and hopefully you learned something new today. If you found value in this video, please drop a like below, and if you haven't watched my video from my last video yet, you can go ahead and watch it now and drop a like on that video, because the incels got my like to dislike ratio really messed up. So if you want to help me out, you can just go ahead and watch that video and like it. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next one. Also, you see these edges? Why are they so embarrassing?